for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank, of course, my friend from Saskatoon, Grasswood, for taking away 90% of my speech, but a very eloquent outline of the issues with respect to sickle cell. So I want to thank him for that. Let me begin, as always, by acknowledging that we're gathered here on the unceded lands of the Algonquin people. I want to thank Senator Jane Cordy from Nova Scotia for passing S-211, an act respecting National Sickle Cell Awareness Day in the Senate. I think her hard work over the years on this issue came to light with the passage of this particular bill in the Senate. And certainly I want to thank my good friend from Dartmouth, Cole Harbour, for sponsoring it in our House today and for his great advocacy on this issue. Before I entered politics, my understanding of sickle cell was very limited, and I must admit that I was on a tour during Black History Month 2 years ago, at a local community health center called Taibu, with my good friend from Barassa, that I found out about sickle cell disease. Taibu Community Health Center, as you know, Mr. Speaker, or you may not know, is the first and only black-focused healthcare center in North America, and I would say in the Americas. I learned that many young people face an uncertain future due to bouts of pain that limit them from reaching their full potential that day. There are systemic challenges in accessing medical services and government programs due to a lack of understanding of the disease. So, for example, for CPP disability, accessing disability tax credits, and those type of facilities that are available to those who have long-term conditions are often unavailable to those suffering from sickle cell disease. There's a lack of support for family members caring for their loved ones, and the disease disproportionately, as my good friend from Saskatoon Grassland said, affects the members of the African Canadian community. The lack of awareness about the disease often results in individuals being underserved by our healthcare system as a whole, including in the areas of research. The fact that treatment and knowledge of the disease vary from province to province and even from hospital to hospital in a particular region compounds the problem. It is one of the most common genetic diseases in Canada and one that has serious effects upon the lives of those suffering from it. Currently, people with sickle cell disease live with life expectancies as much as 30 years lower than the general population. Let us look at the disease. Sickle cell anemia is caused by a mutation in the gene that makes an individual's body produce hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the component in red blood cells that allows them to carry oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body. In people with sickle cell anemia, the abnormal hemoglobin causes red blood cells to become rigid and sickle-shaped due to a hardening of the irregular hemoglobin into long rods. Individuals who are sickle cell carriers have only one sickle gene and do not usually experience serious symptoms. However, as carriers of the disease, they're able to pass it on to their children if their partner has a disease. If the partner is also a carrier. Some of the symptoms of sickle cell effects are as follows. Sickle cell disease affects each person differently and can manifest in many ways. For example, it may damage the spleen, cause bouts of pain, delay growth in children and adolescents, damage vision. Around 10% of children with sickle cell disease have often suffered strokes, and 1 in 4 adults have suffered a stroke. It can cause life-threatening chest conditions, high blood pressure, blocked blood flow to kidneys and liver, open sores on patients' legs, gallstones, and priapism amongst men. Treatment is often quite complicated. It can be treated in 2 ways, one by pain management or through blood transfusions. Unfortunately, both methods of treatment are not without side effects. I want to share with you a very personal story, Mr. Speaker, one that involves a very dear friend of mine. My friend and her partner both have sickle cell trait and therefore are carriers of the disease. Their first child was born in 2005, and at that time there was no mandatory pre-screening process for sickle cell disease in Ontario hospitals. It was not until a few months after his birth that they discovered that he was a carrier. By the time their second child was born, the process had changed significantly in Ontario. My friend and her partner received genetic counseling, and the process of testing children after birth had become standard in Ontario, as it would appear in Saskatchewan as well. This test, performed shortly after their second son's birth, revealed that he had inherited sickle cell trait from both of his parents and thus had sickle cell disease. This early detection provided my friend with the tools and counseling necessary to take control of the situation and ensure that their son received the care he needs. However, today, only 6 out of 10 provinces require early detection for sickle cell disease. Today, her second son is a relatively healthy boy, and the treatment he has had since his first acute chest crisis at age 1, hydroxyurea and daily amoxicillin as prophylaxis, have kept most of his symptoms at bay. Despite the young boy faring well for someone with sickle cell anemia, my friend and her family have nevertheless spent countless nights in the hospital and even more time taking him from doctors to doctors. Due to the series of sickle cell disease, every fever must be treated as an emergency, and any sign of pain is quite frightening. My friend is relatively lucky. Her family is from a middle-income family. Her mother is happy to look after their son, so she does not have to worry about him during the day as she works. She has a flexible work environment that allows her to take time off when necessary. While my friend can effectively navigate the health system because of her advocacy skills, this is not available to most people, particularly those from racialized communities. On a broader level, sickle cell disease has not been given the level of attention it deserves due to the fact that it primarily affects a particular community. These communities, in particular the Black community, often face more than one level of discrimination. In Canada, second-generation Black Canadians face lower wages and almost twice the unemployment rate when compared to other Canadians. This economic disparity makes it more difficult to raise awareness about sickle cell inside and outside of the healthcare system, as many people in the sickle cell community are not traditional power brokers in Canada. If a parent of a child with sickle cell disease were working a minimum wage job, it would be virtually impossible for that person to take time off work and still be able to pay their bills. Attending every shift might be the difference between affording the necessary medication or healthy food people with sickle cell anemia need to remain healthy. In fact, in these situations, having a sick child can result in parents not being able to hold down a job. The lack of awareness around sickle cell disease only exacerbates the problem. Employers who do not understand the disease might also not be as accommodating when staff members must take time off to care for a relative because of their own pain crisis. One of the major reasons why people with sickle cell disease are being underserved by the healthcare system is a lack of awareness. This is a disease that individuals can die from if not treated appropriately. Last month was a very difficult month, Mr. Speaker. I saw firsthand the effects of sickle cell disease. I was able to attend a memorial for Keston Petgrove, who was a client of the Taibu Community Health Care. He was a young man. Keston died on January 7th, incidentally on his birthday, due to complications associated with sickle cell disease. Keston was actively involved in advocating for those who lived with sickle cell through various groups and organizations. He mentored children and youth, attended Camp Jamoke, and was active with sickle cell support group at Taibu. He was talented and expressed himself through various forms of art, including music. This is the real face of the sickle cell disease. Declaring June 19th National Sickle Cell Awareness Day will serve as an annual reminder of the suffering that people go through. And I just want to take a moment, I know I'm almost out of time, to really acknowledge the individual victims and their families and all the organizations that have worked so hard on this issue over the years. And in particular, I want to call out Taibu Community Health Centre, the Sickle Cell Association Awareness Group of Ontario, the Sickle Cell Disease Association of Canada, the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario, Black Health Alliance, and Camp Jamoke for the great work that they've undertaken over the years. Mr. Speaker, it's definitely one of those issues where I think more Canadians, if they're aware of the repercussions and the effects that it has on individuals and families, we would be much more inclined to put research dollars and additional support to those who need the help. I want to thank once again the Senator as well as my friend, as well as all those who've spoken in support, and I'd like to ask this House to support this unanimously in order that June 19th can be declared Sickle Cell Awareness Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.